Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast UFC edition. We couldn't wait. We had to come immediately after UFC 281 because that show lived up to the hype that we've been hyping it up for months. We got the UFC MMA expert, Mr. Chuck Marlowe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing on this lovely Saturday?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. UFC 281 is come and gone, man, and what an event.
Yes, and then what an event indeed. Lived up to the hype. Madison Square Garden. People showed up.
That is true. That is true. So, Chuck, man, first off, where do you want to start? Do you want to start off just going right into it? You did say people following you on Twitter and all that stuff. You were calling the fights and all that, and you got a lot of these fights right on the preview.
4 for 5. You know what? And the other one that I missed, I had as a toss up. Really, ultimately, I was 60% positive on my guess. I was really 50-50 with the whole fight individually. And honestly, I wasn't entirely wrong about that estimate that I missed. But I'll get into that a little bit later because that's the last fight. But we want to start it off with the first fight. We had Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. And oh my, that was a good fight. Hooker definitely is coming back into his form. He did exactly what I was looking forward to him doing. He won. He won in the total strikes. He won in takedown defense because I think Puelles was 0 for 8 on takedowns, so he didn't get a single takedown like he was trying the whole time. He tired him out basically. His striking was amazing. He used his length like I've been looking forward to him doing. And he just kind of kept him at bay. Striking was looking great. And he got the second round TKO, which I called. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna listen to it back again, but I'm pretty sure I called second round TKO. So I'm telling you guys, man, when I tell you these fights and I had these predictions, just take my word for it. Um, but yeah, 29 significant strikes to 5. He looks like the Dan Hooker of old. He's went back to the drawing board, and him and his teammates Adesanya and Volkanovski must have been working pretty hard to get him back into that shape of fighter that he can be, where he can use his length against fighters, be a high level striker.
Yeah, and with Dan Hooker coming out that win, because do want to start throwing these out on the UFC things, because we're big on like people getting paid and all that stuff. I want to talk about how much money he got from that. So Dan Hooker got 210,000 from the purses, the pay per view buys, and all that stuff. 100K for the win bonus. He has 50K and 15K in sponsorships. So he got a total payout of 325,000 from that win.
325K is pretty good if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at, if you really want to get into it kind of with that, if you're looking at like boxing, if we're comparing this to boxing, if we're comparing this, because this is Madison Square Garden,
Right.
This is a big boxing venue as well. And this has sold out a lot of money to a bunch of different fighters and stuff like that. So to hear that type of number with the 321,000, I mean, compared to a boxer who would make maybe probably about 20, 30 million, they're not on the higher end of the boxing, like unless it was like a Floyd Mayweather who's making like 100 million off of one fight, if not more. But if you compare those numbers, that's chump change compared to what boxers make. And I think it's just with the way that the promotion works, unfortunately.
Right, you are. Right, you are. What's the next fight we're talking about?
Next fight we have on that card was Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez. That fight was quick and it was over just like that. Yeah, Frankie Edgar, his retirement fight. Like I said,
Did he officially retire that night?
yeah,
Chuck?
he officially retired that night.
Okay.
He's done for. I mean, he, as you can tell, he just doesn't have much. He doesn't have the get up. Like he doesn't have the speed anymore. Like the other fighters, Chris Gutierrez came out very quickly, put the pace on him, put it on him, and he just knocked him out. And it was very shameful that it had to end like that. And that's a shameful way to go out for Frankie Edgar. I hope he can bounce back. His other endeavors in life, maybe training other people and things of that nature. But yeah, he'll he'll have a very, very good legacy in the UFC. Potential UFC Hall of Famer right there. So just know we will be missed, Frankie. And for Chris Gutierrez, I mean, you're going against an older fighter. It's a good win. It's a good one to have under your belt against a name like Frankie Edgar. But we want to see you on a more high level fight against someone at a much higher level or an equal level to you.
So with Frankie, you said potential UFC Hall of Famer, potentially. So Chuck, what is needed to even get in the UFC Hall of Fame? It's not a Hall of Fame that's been around for like 30 years or something like that. It's relatively new. What does your win loss record need to be? Do you have to have titles? Is it just like whatever Dana decides? What do you think needs to be for a Hall of Famer?
So I know you don't necessarily have to have titles to be in the Hall of Fame in the UFC. Um, but you need to be a fan favorite, and you need to be someone that people gravitate towards. You need to have big moments. You need to have moments where people look back and they're like when you think about big fights, when you think about like Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson, when you
Mm-hmm.
have a moment that goes down in history as one of the best fight like moments in history, that's what a UFC Hall of Famer will be like. Alexander Gustafsson, he's not an actual Hall of Famer, but he's in the UFC Hall of Fame for him and his fight versus John Jones. Their fight is in the Hall of Fame because that was a fight where people were like, damn, that is a hell of a fight. Both fighters put everything out there on the table. It was a back and forth fight, and it was just such a high level fight where people are like, yeah, this is worth the Hall of Fame.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So when you think about the requirements for making it into the Hall of Fame, you just have to be someone that people gravitate towards, and you have to be someone that people love. Like Donald Cowboy Cerrone, he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't won the belt. You know, he isn't like a but he's a very high level fighter, and he's a really good fighter, and he's someone that people gravitate towards, and someone that people love to watch fight, and has had many moments in UFC history that people are going to be like, man, that was just amazing. Like, what the hell did you just see that shit happen? Like, so I think there's not really too strict of a category because, like you said, it's not something that's been around for so long, and it's not a thing that people. There's not too many people. It's not a high volume thing. Like if you look at basketball, if you look at NFL, there's a lot of people who participate in that sport. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard. Like, it's very hard to sit there and be like, okay. I mean, it's very hard to just be like, all right, you get in, you get in, you get in, you get in, you get in. You have a very fine list of requirements to make it into the NFL Hall of Fame and the NBA Hall of Fame. I mean, you don't have to win championships to make it into the NBA Hall of Fame, and we've seen that before.
That's true.
And you don't have to win championships to make it into the NFL Hall of Fame, and we've seen that before. So it's the same as in the UFC. You just have to be someone who's been at a high level before and that people gravitate towards and has done very great things in their career.
That's
And
true.
Frankie definitely has done that.
And then with Gutierrez, you want to compare like total payouts, purse, win bonus, sponsorship. He got $155,000.
Yeah, and then you look at Dan Hooker, who fought underneath him, was making 321. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's not. It's there's. It's about your name and the weight that you carry, and then also what's on your contract. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just I don't know. It ranges in it. That's the thing I don't like about it. It's just very all over the place.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What was up next on this legendary card of 281?
We had the fight of the night, which was up next. Oh my gosh, that fight was. Whew. Whenever you watch a Dustin Poirier fight, it is probably one of the best fights ever. It's a bloody matchup. It's just blood everywhere, and it's I don't know. It was just a great fight. I don't even know how else to describe it other than it was just a great fight. And see, this is when we talk about UFC Hall of Fame. Dustin Poirier, without a doubt, will be in the Hall of Fame because of the fights he puts on and the level that he doesn't have. He hasn't had the belt. You know, he's had
Mm-hmm.
the interim belt and stuff and everything, but he doesn't have like the belt. So he's a Hall of Famer for sure. I mean, you just see the way he just comes out. He was coming out, he came out kind of flat. I think the first round, you got Michael Chandler get that takedown, and he was on top, and he was riding him, and he was getting some ground and pound and stuff. But if you look at the total strikes for that first round, it was 31-24, an advantage of Dustin Poirier. But Michael Chandler was 2 of 4 for takedown. So takedown and ground control was a big thing for the refs and scoring. It was 28-23 in significant strikes for that round as well. You start looking at that second round, Michael Chandler turned it up a little bit better. He had a lot of ground time. It was 39 strikes to 23 strikes, an advantage of Michael Chandler, 1 of 1 in takedown. It was a lot of ground and pound, 18 significant strikes to 2. So Dustin Poirier really didn't have a chance to do too much. But then you get into that that third round, and it was 9 total strikes to 2. And there was that submission attempt, which sunk in, and Dustin Poirier choked him out, rear naked choke, and put him out. But let me just break it down in actual aspect of what was happening during the fight, not just by the numbers. It was just a lot of dirty boxing going on, basically, from Dustin Poirier, which I expected to happen. Michael Chandler swinging for the fences, which is his style, and he was trying to take Dustin's head off. He missed a few times, got gassed by doing all of his wrestling, and got very lethargic. All the buildup in his muscles from throwing those heavy shots and wrestling just had him gassed. And Dustin Poirier was very good at that. If you're a fighter that fights like that, he's going to wear you out, get you tired, and he's going to start beating you up. He tags people. That's the thing with Dustin. He tags you. It doesn't look like he's hitting you that hard, but those punches add up. He'll hit you about fury or a good combination of 5 punches like a boxer. And those really get fighters wobbled and stunned. And that's what happened to Michael Chandler. He kept catching them after he kept trying to throw haymakers and stuff. And he put him down a few times, got back in there, and he got this rear naked choke and sunk it in. That was a bloody fight. There was that moment in the fight where Michael Chandler was on top of him, and they're talking about Michael Chandler was fighting dirty because he spit the blood in his face and stuff. And he was sitting there putting his fingers in Dustin Poirier's mouth and stuff. And I mean, Michael Chandler, it wouldn't surprise me if he actually did any of that stuff and if he really was fighting dirty like that, because Michael Chandler seems like the type of guy that would. But Michael Chandler's still a fan favorite. We love to see the fights. He goes out there and he puts his head out there for sure, and he puts everything on the line when he goes out there to fight. And that's one thing that people will like in the UFC. You will always stay around and you will always stay relevant if you go on and put on performances like that, even if you lose.
Dustin made 1 million on that fight, Chuck. But what's next for both of these guys?
Dustin, it's for him. It's picking his next fight. With him being in that division, let me think. I got to figure out where he's ranked. He's number 2, right behind Charles Oliveira.
Mm-hmm.
You may potentially look at him fighting Charles Oliveira again. Maybe you look at him fighting Beneil Dariush, who's on the rise in that lightweight division. I don't think he'll go up for the title just yet because he's not ready for the title. And he's admittedly said that, and he's admittedly opened up and said, "Hey, I'm not ready for the title." I don't know what's next for Dustin. I don't know where he goes from there. Michael Chandler, he's probably going to fight you can't put him up against Gaethje again. Gaethje already beat him. You can't really put him up against Charles. Charles is too high level of a fighter, I think, for him right now, especially after you just lost to someone below Charles. So maybe you put him up against a Rafael Fiziev or a Rafael Dos Anjos. And maybe you put him up against one of those fighters, or Dan Hooker, who just came off of a win, to see if he's ready to move up in the rankings even more. So I think that's probably the next matchup for those two. Those are some of my projections and guesses for them next, but I don't see any of them fighting for the title soon. I think they still have some things to prove. Dustin still has some things to prove to himself. He wants to probably get better as a grappler before trying to go up for the title against Islam Makhachev, which makes a lot of sense because Islam Makhachev is on another level and he's about to go fight for another belt. So it's not like that's going to happen anytime soon for him.
Fair enough. Definitely got to see both these guys. Like you said, match of the night. There was a lot of blood, a lot of action. This was something. Chuck, you go from that fight to what was next on the card?
Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili. So I'm just gonna go out and say I told you so. I told you so. I told everybody so. Carlos, no disrespect to Carla. You're a great fighter. You won your belt. you had your moment, you held on to it, and you did what you're supposed to do. But Zhang Weili's on another level. She wanted her belt back, and also she's just on another level as a fighter. I don't think there's no one really on her level besides Rose because Rose's technical aspect. I don't think that Rose could beat her again, honestly, in my opinion. Um, Zhang is going to hold on to this belt for a while. I anticipate and I hope. She just went out and she enforced her will. She just did exactly what she wanted to do with Carla, and that's exactly what I expected her to do. She came out in that first round, 38 strikes to 18 total strikes. Carla had one of three takedowns to Zhang's zero, but you had the reversal from Zhang later in that round, and then she had a bunch of ground and pound and 33 significant strikes to five. That's a lot of damage. There's so much raw strength and power in Zhang Weili, so I didn't anticipate Carla ever being able to hold her down or do anything against her, which she wasn't able to. And getting to that round two, you had the four total strikes to one, and then there was the submission attempt, which ended it all. She got in there and she choked her out. Exactly what we expected to happen. I just think she has too much raw strength for Carla, and that's what happened. She just had too much strength for her, and she overpowered her. She used her muscle, and she just choked her the hell out. And Carla was like, I can't do this. She's like, I can't compete with this. There's no way you can compete with Zhang. Zhang is I can't wait to see what she does. She's gonna go on a tear. I feel like she's gonna go on one of those historic. Like I think she's gonna go on a Amanda Nunes run, and I hope she does. And I really anticipate that because I don't see anyone else who's going to be able to compete with her or hold up as a level of fighter as she is.
Yeah, and Zhang, she made a total of $6,667. So during that fight, and like you said, there might be no one. Like, what would be a mega fight for her now?
Mega fight for her. Damn, I'm trying to think. Who would you put up against? I'd say you probably put up Rose against her again. Since I think what they're 1-1, 2-1, something like that. 1-1 or 2-1 or something like that. I got to look at that to remind myself. But I'd say you probably put her up against Rose again. Because if they're 1-1, then you put Rose back up for that belt, and they can they can finally settle the score. And I think that's a great matchup right there. That'll sell. You look at maybe putting Jessica Andrade against her, who's number 4 ranking, to skip over a few other people, which I could see Dana definitely doing. Andrade has as much strength. I don't think she has just as much strength as Zhang Weili, but she's a close comparison to Zhang, and I think they're both two raw, strong fighters, and I think they just have a lot of strength, and I think that'll be a good matchup, grappling and striking wise.
Okay. Chuck, what was the next fight on this card?
You got the main event.
Mm.
Izzy versus Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this one was a toss up. And I told you it would be a knockout. And it was just, it could have happened early and it could have happened late. And it happened late. I said it before and I'll say it again. This is why people love the sport of MMA. Anything can happen at any given moment. Any
Yeah.
fighter can win on any given day. And this shit, that fight was fucking amazing. You come out, I'm just gonna break it down round for
Go
round, and then
ahead.
we're gonna get into the overall fight synopsis. You had 28-23 striking in the first round, advantage going to Alex Pereira. Then you look at the significant strikes, it was split down the middle, 23-23, but you can give the round to Alex in that first round because he just won in total strikes by 5 strikes. Then you get into round 2, it was 30-33 total strikes and advantage of Alex again, and he was 1 of 1 in takedowns. And there was 20 significant strikes to 17 in advantage of Adesanya. That round probably actually would have ended up going to Adesanya just due to the significant strikes. I know Alex had the takedowns, but that one was, so those first 2 rounds were really kind of a toss-up. I say you could give the first round to Izzy and you can give the second to Alex, or you could give the second round to Alex and give the first round to Izzy. Those were both kind of tosses up. I had those both as toss-up rounds because I think it was really more Izzy won the first round and then Alex won that second round. Then you get into the third round, and this is where Izzy kind of put it on him a little bit. You had 31 total strikes to 19 advantage of Adesanya, and 1 of 1 on takedowns for Adesanya, and then 14 to 8 on the significant strikes in favor of Adesanya. So that round definitely goes to Adesanya. That was a clear cut round where you can tell it went to Adesanya. Then you get into the fourth round. It was 30 to 26 in total strikes advantage Pereira, but you look at the significant strikes, it was 20 to 15 in favor of Adesanya. And when you look at significant strikes, that's going to be the thing that the judges pay attention to most. So that probably would have went to Adesanya. And then you get into round 5. And oh my gosh, right before this round, man, Glover Teixeira, having him as a coach for Alex Pereira, that was a good moment for him. That was a great, I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. I don't know if you've seen the video. You guys can look it up on Twitter, YouTube, anywhere else. But he said, hey, do I need a knockout? And they're like, yeah, you need one. Because on the scorecard, they had it probably 3-1 in favor of Adesanya going into that second round. So he needed a knockout because Adesanya ultimately was winning that fight. And that's the reason why MMA is so fucking wild, because you can be, we've seen it with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. You could be winning a fight clear and just clear as day that you're winning that fight. And then boom, you lose the fight. It's just, he had 30 total strikes to 9 total strikes. You had 28 significant strikes to 9 total significant strikes, both in favor of Alex Pereira. And that was a great performance by him in that 5th round. He knew he was down. He bit down on his mouthpiece and he said, you know what, I'm going to get to work. He said, I beat this guy before and I can beat him again. He said, I'm going to do what I need to do and I'm going to make sure that I get this belt. And that was just a great overall performance by Alex. He's now 3-0 versus Izzy. Because, he won. I didn't mention this last time, but I should have mentioned it before. He had beat him once in decision to Adesanya in kickboxing. Then the second time he beat him was in that knockout. And now he beat him again, knocking him out. That left hand, that left hook. Vicious, fucking vicious. It's a thing of beauty to watch this guy strike. But so overall, looking at this fight, Izzy was winning it, and he had a 3-1 going into that final round. And no matter how that final round went out, Izzy probably would have went on to walk out with that belt. And Alex, he did what he needed to do. He solidified the win, got the strikes in there, got him up against the fence, and started pounding his face in and doing what he needed to do, picking off his strikes very beautifully. Adesanya couldn't cover up, and he got done up. But I like what Adesanya is doing. He's keeping his head held high after that loss. He's very confident in himself after that loss, which he should be. I mean, you were winning the fight. If you were winning a fight against someone you've lost to before, I know it's going to do a lot to your head probably, and mentally. I think that he's still, as much as he says he's okay, I think there's still some mental aspect to it where it's like, damn, I knew I can beat him, but I didn't beat him. There's that thing. It's like I had it, but I lost it again, and I just keep losing to this guy. It's like he's his kryptonite, and so we'll see where this goes next. They probably will definitely throw this up again. That's another thing. People are probably going to argue, hey, Adesanya has lost to this guy 3 times, but that's in kickboxing. Was the 2 other losses, so I say you give him another fair shot at the belt. It's just, this is MMA. It's not over until it's over. It's not over until the fat lady's singing. And hey, her mouth was shut until that last round, and Alex put him out.
Yeah, Chuck, you really hit the nail on the head with this, because it almost mirrored Usman's fight. In control the whole way, and then 5th round, the knockout blow, it almost mirrored it.
Yeah, so my only caveat to that would be it wasn't as dominant of a performance by Adesanya as Usman versus Leon, because Usman was flat out dominating Leon.
Okay.
It was just, it was maybe potentially 10-8 rounds, where he just had him on the ground and he was just punching his fucking face in. Now, it wasn't as clear as day like that for Adesanya, but you can definitely say Adesanya was winning that fight and was going to walk out without the belt. And I definitely say it mirrored it in that fashion where it was just like, man, he's going to win. He's going to win. This is going to happen. He's going to get his revenge. And then boom, just tables fucking turn.
Chuck, we got another new champion in a big UFC pay-per-view. You've already said what Adesanya may need to do, but what about the champ now for the people who didn't expect him to be the champ?
Oh, he's just got to defend. That's all he has to do. He has to keep doing what he's been doing to get there. He has to just keep continuously knocking people on their fucking ass. That left hook, man. I don't know if anybody can stop it anytime soon. Someone's going to come up with a game plan for it to stop it. The question is, who's it going to be, and how soon will that be? Because no one saw him getting there. No one saw him getting there as quick as he got there. He came in this, like he said, he came out here and on a mission, ready to go. And if you guys haven't heard his story, I definitely look up Alex Pereira's story. I've been listening a little bit more into it now lately. Everything, just the fact that he was an alcoholic at 12 years old, decided to get in MMA. His son is, I think, about 8 years old or something like that, maybe a little bit older. He's been bringing him along with the way. That was the thing that made him change and decide to do better. Took up kickboxing and stuff. And it's a good thing that he took it up because he's turned a new leaf. And this man is in that middleweight division, and he is ready to bang with anybody in that division. I guarantee. Robert Whitaker, Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, Paulo Costa, Sean Strickland, he's already beat up pretty bad. Jack Hermanson, Darren Till, Andre Muniz, Kelvin Gastelum. That's all down. I think that's in numerical order, two of the rankings. So he's ready to fight. And I don't know anyone who's going to stop this man right now because he set out to get that belt. He just got this new tattoo of the belt on him. He has the other belt from kickboxing on his other bicep. And he said he cleared up a space and he was ready to get that tattoo on him. Hey, when someone has their destiny written and they want to make sure their destiny is fulfilled, they make sure they maintain their destiny. So I'm excited to see what's next for him.
Chuck, what would you rate this card on a scale of 1 to 10?
Ooh. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Yeah, 9, maybe 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I mean, I think there was great performances all around from the prelims to the early prelims. Now, if we're factoring all that in together, I say 9, solid 9 for sure. Because those prelims and early prelims were great fights too. I don't know if anybody watched any of those. I definitely recommend watching prelims and early prelims all the time because there's always some great fights on there. They're just not big name fighters. That's the only thing that's different about it. They're not big name fighters, but there's some good fights. I just watched a good fight while we're doing this podcast because right now it's Lewis versus Spivak and the prelims are on it. I'm watching those and there was just a wild fight that just happened. It was a 3-round fight and it's two no names that nobody really probably would know about, but they went on for a 3-round fight, knocking each other down back and forth. And it's amazing just what can happen in those early prelims and prelims. And I think that's what happened in this fight card, but also the main event and the rest of that main card was just amazing to watch. The only caveat and the reason why I gave it an 8.5/9 is Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez. I don't think that one should have really been up there. I think it was just because it was Frankie Edgar's retirement fight. And it was a quick fight and it was just kind of uneventful. It was kind of like, damn, well, this is sad to kind of watch it happen right here like this. And then the Dan Hooker versus Claudio, I mean, it was a good fight for Dan, and he fought the fight he was supposed to, but Claudio was gassed most of the damn fight, and he looked like he was out of shape because Dan was just banging him up so bad. So I don't think it was that great of a performance for Claudio, so it made it deteriorate the card a little bit. It's kind of like when you have like a little bit of bacteria and something, it just deteriorates it a little bit. It may be high quality, but it's deteriorated. So I say 8.5, probably for the full card ranking.
Okay. Sounds good. Chuck, what is this card was hyped up for months and it delivered. and met expectations. Now for UFC 282, I know it's still a little bit away, but what are they gonna do? How are you gonna follow up with this?
Well, ideally, you would maybe try and put another title fight on here. I know it's on December 10th, which is less than 3 weeks away. So you're probably not going to be able to get another title fight on here. So I don't anticipate it being as good of a card. You do have some higher name fighters and some high level fighters on this card, which actually makes it sound pretty good because actually I'm fucking looking at the prelims on here right now. Yeah, Rojan Struck versus Chris Dawkins. That's number 9 versus 11 on the prelim. You have Darren Till, who's fucking coming back. I love Darren Till. Fucking wild ass. Fucking, oh my gosh. From Liverpool, bro. Oh, I can't wait to see him fighting. He's going to get Dricus du Plessis. That's going to be fights. Number 9 versus number 13. You have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Jay Perrin, which I think this is Raul's debut. I'm not 100% sure. I have to double check. Then you have Alexander Gustafsson versus Ovian St. Preux, which are two high-level fighters in that light heavyweight division, two people who battled with John Jones. I just talked about Alexander fighting him. And then you have Bryce Mitchell versus Ilia Torpuria, sorry. And that's on that main card. Robbie Lawler and Santiago. Paddy Pimblett, Paddy the Batty versus Jared Gordon. Jan Blankovic versus Magomedov. That's like this card is actually a pretty loaded card with ranked fighters. There's not many. There's only one title shot on this card, but you look at the winner of that co-main event, they're going to be fighting for the title next for sure.
Okay, that sounds good. I did. Oh, also wanted to backtrack. Adesanya made the most money of the card. His total payout that day was 1.79 million, and Alex Pereira, his total payout was 900,332.
Right. Yes, and that's the thing. That's the thing I don't like about it. It's not weighed out evenly as well because Dustin Poirier, he got paid out more than Zhang Weili, who just won the belt.
He got paid more than Alex.
Yeah, and he got paid more than Alex, and it's just based off the name and stuff like that. So I mean, I get it, I understand it, kind of because the longevity and how long Dustin's been in the game and the name of the fighter. But also, I think there's a factor to what you're fighting for. You should be getting some money because Alex was a huge draw for that damn card because he's already beat Adesanya, and that's the main reason why a lot of people bought into it because they're like, oh, well, this is a great matchup, but he's not making nearly as much. So that's where you get into that disparity where it's like, what the hell? That doesn't make no sense. Then you have Zhang, who's fighting for a title as well, who's not making as much as someone who's fighting just to fight against another person for a 3-round fight.
Agreed. Chuck, anything else on this card, man, or anything else in the UFC you want to hit on before we sign out?
I know this is happening right now, actually. You have Derek Lewis versus Spivak part 2 after that controversial one where they called the fight too early and Derek Lewis was he was still good to go and he was still fighting. And they called the fight early because the referee fucked up. So I'm happy to see them get that rematch. I hope Derek Lewis can get a win. Look out for that card today. I know this is going to come out after the card because they're literally fighting right now. Like the fighters are fighting right now, like Morales and John's fighting. So just if you can watch the playback of it if you have ESPN Plus. There's some good fights on this card, and like I just said, I've watched some great fights so far on this card. Like Andre Filau's fighting on this card. You have Ion Kudabella. You have some good fighters on this card. You have Marina Miraz versus Jennifer Maia. Like, it's a good card. So if you can play it back after the fact and watch it, or if you watched it, let me know what you thought of it. Yeah, definitely. Those are my things for UFC. And look out for here's my boxing plug because I like to watch boxing. I love boxing.
There was a big fight announced.
Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. About fucking time. I'm ready to see this. Got many fucking Mike Tyson versus pretty boy Ryan Garcia. I can't wait to see how that goes. Hey, look, that's the speed versus power matchup right there. And I think Ryan has power too, but I don't. It ain't Tank Davis. He's called Tank Davis for a reason.
Right. All right. Yeah, that's a big fight that's finally been announced. We'll definitely keep an eye on that too. And depending on when it actually happens, might have to throw that on an L7C review.
Most definitely.
But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Make sure you like, rate, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to. Make sure you follow Chuck on all social media platforms for UFC updates, especially Twitter. Make sure you follow Chuck on Twitch and subscribe to his YouTube where he's putting up a whole bunch of content from different leagues and Madden to Call of Duty to NBA 2K. Make sure you're following him on all those platforms. And with that being said, this is the L7C podcast signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.